questions are important, you know, because I can't read minds yet. And so it helps me to get a sense of, you know, where you're at in relationship to whether we're talking about practicing meditation or whether we're talking about learning about the mind, learning about, you know, your true nature as awareness itself, whatever the case may be. Everybody's in a different place, right? Everybody's experiencing a different life. Everybody's in a different place in relationship to what you consider meditation to be. Everybody's in a different place in terms of who you habit that you are. Everybody's in a different place in terms of how you view the world. Everybody's in a different place in terms of the way you're managing your behavior, right? Everybody's in a unique situation. One of my teachers said that we all are on the same planet, but there's 7 billion worlds. And that's really true, you know. The eyes through which you look are seeing a different world than the eyes of every other human being. And so when we talk about teaching and we talk about meditation, I can either just, you know, try and use an approach to talk in general terms in a way that I think everybody will get some benefit from, but that's, you know, that's shooting blind. So when people ask questions, it makes it a lot more useful, because usually the questions that people have are the same as the questions that other people have. So whenever somebody asks a question, you're really asking it for everybody that's present, right? He's quite an accomplished person, right? And so he's got a personality that got him there. Right? And in the world, the way you accomplish things is you work hard, right? And so you have a work ethic, you know, and you're very persistent, right? And you work hard, you know, and here's a guy that's got a PhD, you know, he had a very successful career in pharmacology. And so his personality is organized that way. And so here he goes to meditate, and his personality doesn't know how to do anything but try hard. Even if he knows that doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things that you discover through meditation, is that, you know, you know, most of us are smart enough to know what works. It's not hard, right, to know what works. And yet when we compare how we are and how we behave to what we know in terms of what works, there's usually a gap, right? And the reason that that's the case, and the reason it's so difficult for people to just do what works, you know, like what Jay said, you know, he said, I understand what you say when it's that in terms of meditation, efforting doesn't work. In terms of even relaxing the body, trying to relax the body is a contradiction, right? Because trying is going to cause tension, right? And so there's something here that we're talking about that's different from the conventional approach to things, right? In meditation, trying doesn't work. And as far as relaxing the body, trying doesn't work. And so what do, right? Well, here's where it gets a little more complicated, because even though you know trying doesn't work, when you sit to meditate, you want to accomplish something, you want to experience meditation, you want to get the value and the benefit of meditation. And the person that you are doesn't know how to not try. The person that you are doesn't know how to not try. And so one of the things that is talked about in terms of meditation is, in order to succeed in meditating, you have to actually let go of being the person that tries. And what I mean by that is that there is an alternative to being the person that tries, right? And the alternative to being the person that tries is to allow yourself to notice something that's very obvious yet goes unnoticed by most of us, which is that there is an experience of yourself that is other than the person that tries. And the experience of yourself that's other than the person that tries is the simple, obvious, always available awareness that you are. The simple, obvious, always available awareness that you are. And this is what the teachings that are associated with meditation tell us, that meditation is an opportunity for you to discover this always available awareness. It's an opportunity to discover it because you're slowing down, right? You're slowing down, and you're sitting still, and you're being quiet, and you're stabilizing your attention. And this makes it more possible to notice something that's always here but goes unnoticed because you're not as distracted. In the normal state of mind that people are in, they're distracted all the time. Your mind's moving all the time from one thing to another. That's one of the things that people complain about when they attempt to meditate. I can't control my mind. My mind's racing. My mind's going all over the place. I can't stabilize it. I can't keep it focused on my breath. Well, of course, that's why the initial practice of meditation is to simply focus on the breath and keep bringing the attention back to the breath so that you can eventually stabilize your ability to maintain attention. And when that happens, something becomes available. What becomes available is you can begin to notice something that is always here that's been going unnoticed, and that's the awareness itself. The awareness that is aware of the thinking. The awareness that is aware of the thinking. And it is possible to redirect your attention to that awareness and away from thought so that you can actually discover the possibility of being that awareness. And going back to the question, that awareness is never making any effort. The awareness is never making any effort. Are you trying to be aware right now? See what I'm saying? Do you have to work at, like, I'm really trying to be aware. Do you have to work at being aware? No. It's effortlessness. It's happening by itself all the time. In fact, if I say to you, okay, stop being aware right now, can you do it? You can't, right? It's just on. It's always on, and it's always happening, and it doesn't require any effort. And this is the essence of meditation. The essence of meditation is to allow yourself to recognize that there is an awareness that is always present. And by stabilizing your ability to pay attention, you can pay attention to this awareness that's always present and just let yourself be that. Let yourself be here as that. And when you're here as that, you can let go of effort. You can let go of trying and begin to understand that you can trust the awareness. That it is, the awareness does know. The awareness has wisdom. The awareness is the essence of meditation. Awareness is the essence of meditation. Awareness is the essence of what you are. It's the essence of what you are. So the thing about it is this, what I would recommend is that when you go to meditate, right, see if you can tune into the awareness itself. And when you tune into the awareness itself, just stay as the awareness. Let the body be relaxed, stay as the awareness, let it do the meditation. Let the awareness do the meditation. And if you do that, you'll start to discover that this is truly what meditation is. This is the easy way of meditating. It's actually the easy way of living your life as well. Well, the pathway to self-realization, the pathway to actually being what you actually are is awareness. It's a pathway that is a very paradoxical pathway in a sense. And the reason I say that is because given where you start as the person that you consider yourself to be, right? Everybody starts this process of waking up to the truth of themselves as awareness. They start where they are, and where they are is they consider themselves to be a person just like everybody else. You consider yourself to be a separate person. You consider yourself to be a body, right? The whole thing. You consider yourself to have a story and, be a person, and you think your thoughts and you feel your feelings and you live your life and all that. That's where you start, right? And so given that's where you start, the only way you can move from there to experiencing the truth of yourself, right, is to do it from the person, do it from the way the person does it. And the way the person does it is just what Jay said. The person tries harder. They do more. More different and better is the way the person lives, isn't it? More different and better. If you don't get the results you want, you do more of something or you do less of something, right? You do something different, right? Or you do something better. That's the way the person lives, right? And so you can't get out of being that way. And so when you want to experience the truth of yourself, which is the awareness, not the person, right? The person's way of doing that will be to do the more different and better thing, right? Now what happens is as you do more different and better, you start to build up a pressure, right? The pressure starts to build because you want to get where you're going, and you get more and more information about it, and you understand more and more about how it is to be there, but you're still not there, right? And then it starts to become pressurized, because you're investing time in this. You're trying hard. You're learning. You're reading. You're meditating, and I want to get there, and I want to get there, right? And it starts to become pressurized. It starts to get to a place where it feels uncomfortable. I can't take this anymore. I either got to give up trying to, realize this, or I don't know, get a new guru, or I don't know, maybe I haven't found the right book yet. You see how it goes? Now, interestingly enough, that's a necessary aspect of the process. And what happens is it's got to build up momentum and pressure until it gets to a point where the whole thing falls apart. And this happens naturally. Alan Watts, one of my teachers, he said the process of self-realization is one in which you do all these things, meditation, prayer, yoga, study, whatever it is, you do all these things in an attempt to realize the self, okay? This is the person doing all these things, an attempt to realize the self. However, as we talk about here, this is the conundrum that we talk about here, is that the self that you're attempting to realize is already who you are. You see the conundrum? So you're trying to get somewhere you've never left. You see? But the person doesn't know how to do that. How do I be what I already am? How do I be what I already am when I'm not experiencing that I'm that? It seems to me that I got to do something to be that, right? Well, you don't have to do something, but you have to try to do something, right? And the process of trying to do something is, in the end, serves a purpose. The purpose it serves the purpose of having you get very, very clear at some point that it was never necessary to do anything. And so you have to do enough until you give up. That's why they talk about surrender in relationship to self-realization. You have to actually give up. You can't. The way Paul Hederman says it is you've never actually been who you think you are. Right? You're familiar with these things, right? Because you read my book, right? You've never actually been who you think you are, right? But who you think you are will understand that and want to experience the truth, want to experience who you really are, right? Who you think you are will understand that and want to experience who you really are, and so it'll try to do it. It just can't help it. It'll try to do it. And the more it tries, the worse it gets. The more it tries, the worse it gets, right? But you see, all along, the message is being put out, the message is being given to the person that you're already that. Do you see how this is paradoxical? You're hearing that you're already that, and yet you still try and become it. You're hearing that you're already that, and you can't help it. You can't help it. Well, you can't help it because it's a necessary reality for you to keep trying to get out of. See, it's a necessary reality of the process of awakening for you as a person to keep trying to get out of something you're not in. To keep trying to be something that you've never been anything but, right? But the mind, see, because your mind is so programmed and organized to operate in time, and to see things as something that's going to happen that didn't happen yet, right? The mind is organized that way. And so you have to kind of use that to take it to its end, right? And then at some point, one of the teachers says at some point it combusts. It combusts. And that's why you hear people talk about sudden enlightenment, that somewhere along the line, people tend to have an experience where the whole organization falls apart. And it falls apart, and there you are, you're just there. And for a lot of people, it's an experience of, holy shit. It's always been here, and it's always been here, and I was trying to experience something that I've always been experiencing. See, that's part of the dilemma, right? If it's true that you are already who you are as awareness itself, and this awareness is the key to happiness. This awareness is the key to satisfaction. This awareness is the key to being able to interact with the world in a wise way and an effective way. So who doesn't want this, right? And if it's already the case that you're already that, right? Then right now, see, here's the thing. If it's already the case that you're already that, and that is the fulfillment of the possibility of being a human being, it can give you everything you want. It can allow for you to experience happiness without having to get it from anywhere, right? A natural state of being happy, right? So you want it, right? You want it, right? And it's already the case, right? Well, if you want it and it's already the case, must it not be true that you must be experiencing it right now? If it's already true, you must be experiencing it right now. But your mind will not allow you to have that understanding. Why? Your mind will not allow. Your mind will come in and say, "Oh no, that's not true. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. You're not the awareness. You're not the awareness. You have problems, right?" And the mind will come in and it'll prove to you that you're not the awareness, right? By demonstrating how you continue to react and you continue to do things that don't work, right? It'll prove it to you, right? And if you buy into that conversation, if you buy into listening to the voice in your head, right? Then you're out of it. You just got to read another book now. You just got to read another book, right? But if you realize that the mind is programmed to have you survive, have you survive as who you consider yourself to be. That's its program, to have you survive as who you consider yourself to be. And so if you try and not be that, the mind's going to resist. The mind's going to try and get your attention back, to get you away from the idea that you're anything other than what the mind says you are, right? So the way out of it is, like I say to Christine, when she's here, right? She's my favorite person who keeps saying, I know, but, right? The way out of it is to just stop listening to the voice in your head as the source of what you know. Right? Human beings listen to the voice in their head as the source of what you know. It is telling you what's so, isn't it? Right? I said this many times here before, that most people, until you wake up and see things as they are, you don't know that thinking is not knowing. You don't know that thinking is not knowing. You think thinking is knowing. Isn't it true? I mean, just examine your own experience. Isn't it true that you walk through your day and thoughts go through your head, right? And they're not just thoughts. What you think is what you see. Isn't it? When you think something, you don't think it's just a thought, it's just an interpretation. I could interpret it any of a million different ways, right? You don't see that. You think the thought, and you believe the thought is an accurate reflection of reality. That's a big mistake. It's never an actual reflection of reality. Thinking is an interpretation. If it was an actual reflection of reality, then all of us would be thinking the same things, wouldn't we? Because we'd be seeing what's there, and we'd be thinking what we're seeing, and we'd all be seeing the same thing. But that's not true. We're all seeing something different. Everybody's seeing something different. Why? Because the voice in your head is different from my voice. The voice in your head grew up and had the experiences you had, believed the beliefs you believe, learned the things you learned, and that's what it's using to see things, and that's how it's interpreting what it's seeing, right? And if that's the way you're limited, if you continue to relate to the voice in your head as a voice that you can trust to interpret reality to you, you're never going to get free. You're never going to see things as they really are. That's the power of awareness. Awareness is seeing things as they are. It's not an interpretation. It's seeing thoughts. That's why awareness can see that a thought is a thought. But if you believe the thought and you think you're the thinker of the thought, you have no place to see it from. It just seems like it's true. This explains war. This explains human conflict. It explains why people don't get along with each other. Because everybody believes they're right, don't they? Everybody believes what they think is an accurate perception of reality, right? And if my perception of reality is different from your perception of reality, right? And we can't both have it the same way, then somebody's got to dominate the other person, right? And if what's at stake is money, love, possessions, then we're going to war. That's what explains human behavior. So awareness is really the lack of awareness, the mindlessness that's common for human beings explains why we are so destructive, why are we're so conflicted, why we're so unhappy, why we're so anxious, why we're so depressed. And that's why I say that to wake up and discover the reality of yourself as awareness is psychotherapeutic, right? Because if you discover that, the way you see things changes. And if the way you see things changes, the way you behave changes. One of my teachers said that action is the way you interact with reality, is it not? Action. Speaking and behaving is the way you interact with reality. And what he said was a very astute observation. And what he said is, what determines your actions is the way things occur for you. Check it out. What determines how you behave is how you're seeing things, isn't it? If you're a person who's paranoid, right? If you're a person who's paranoid and you're afraid of everything and everybody, right? Then your behavior is going to be consistent with that, right? If you're somebody who's awake and self-realized and you know yourself as awareness and you're free from the limited interpretations that your mind gives you, right? Now your behavior is going to be consistent with that. That's a different world. You're not going to be seeing people as threats to you. You're going to you're not going to be seeing people as threats to you. You're going to be seeing people as the same as you. If from the viewpoint of awareness, you're going to see people as the same as you. From the viewpoint of a person, you're going to see people as potential threats. You're separate from me. I don't know about you. I got to check you out, right? That's the way we are relating to one another in the world, typically, right? And so this whole business of meditation really is the beginning of a possibility. It's the beginning of the possibility of coming to see the truth of yourself as awareness and then recognizing that that's the case right now. Therefore, and all you have to do in order to begin to experience yourself as that is to stop listening to the voice in your head that's telling you that you're something other than that. It's really that simple. Well, it's, like people say, it's easier said than done, right? It really is that simple, but the only problem is you have a bad habit of listening to the voice, don't you? See, one of the things about this that makes it a complicated process is that the mind has all kinds of curveballs. The mind has all kinds of subtle ways of keeping you involved with it, right? And so in terms of what you just said, right? You say, she said, what if you've been able to successfully quiet the voice, but you still experience a lot of nervousness and anxiety, right? You have been duped. You have been duped, right? Because the you that has quieted the mind is the mind. And that's why you're still nervous, you see? It will come in and tell you that it is the awareness talking. It'll come in and tell you that it is the awareness talking. It will play the cop and the robber at the same time to keep you involved, right? It's very sophisticated. The mind's very sophisticated in terms of all the ways that it knows to keep your attention, isn't it? Isn't it? And yet it's not really your friend. It's not really your friend, right? It's like I say, the old story about, you open the refrigerator and you see this big chocolate cake in there and the voice in your head says, oh, go on, you can taste it. No, they won't really be that mad at you. It's worth it, right? And so you take your finger and you eat some of the frosting. And after you swallow it, the same voice says, you shouldn't have done that. Isn't it true? Your voice tells you what to do and then beats you up later, right? So you have to come to an understanding that the voice in your head is not looking out for you. It's not trying to provide happiness for you. It's just trying to keep your attention. And it'll do it by beating you up, and it'll do it by attracting you to what it attracts you to. Its operational program is get more of what feels good, get less of what doesn't feel good, right? Avoid what's painful, seek what's pleasurable, right? Be on the lookout for anything that could hurt you and threaten you, and be on the lookout for anything that could make you happy. And this is the operation that's running all the time. It's living your life for you. Keeps you in the rat race, right? But if you discover yourself as awareness, the game's up, the game's over, the gig's up. You don't have to do anything to be happy. It's just your nature. If you look at these tribes that are untouched by civilization, there's a few of them left in the world. If you look at these tribes and you look at these people, they're like walking around with these big smiles on their face. They're just happy. They haven't learned, they haven't learned. They live in a culture that supports them understanding and knowing the truth of who they are from the very beginning. And they haven't learned to be crazy yet. And so they're just happy. It's like a baby. A baby hasn't learned how to be crazy. That's why they're happy. But the thing is this, the bottom line is this. You start in this work and these practices and these teachings, you start from where you are. And if you're an average person, where you are is you're a typical neurotic human being, right? That has fears, that has anxiety, that has limited ways of dealing with life, that reacts to things a lot, right? That gets caught up too much in the past and the future, right? This is a typical human being, right? And one of the things that I've said here over and over again is that the first step you have to take is to understand that you need not to have to accept that. You don't have to go on and live life as if that's all that's possible. That's the whole attraction to this possibility, is it's actually possible to come out of your misery. It's actually possible to discover, not only discover, but actually experience what you actually are. And as you have that experience, happiness begins to become apparent. It's just the way it is. But at the same time, based like on the thing that you said, there's no free lunch here. You have to deal with the way your mind is organized and the programming that's already there. You see, you can wake up and actually see. Right now, it's not hard. It's not hard because you already are what you are. You're already the awareness you are. So how hard can it be for you to know that that's so, right? All you have to do, if I say to you, are you aware, right? If I say to you, are you aware? If you say yes, you must have looked and noticed that you were. It's that simple. You must have looked and noticed that you were. And then the other thing, all there is to do after that is to realize that if you got hit on the head and you had total amnesia, which does happen, and then you don't know who you are, you have no history, right? But you're still here. That just shows that you can get rid of everything but the awareness itself, which means the awareness is the essential reality. It is the first reality. It was here before you learned your name. It was here before you had a personality, right? And so it's there. It's there all the time. It is your essential nature, and it's available and present at all times. And so the possibility, in order to realize that possibility now, so you can wake up and see that. It doesn't take much to see that, right? All you got to do is look and you can see that, right? But then the program that's running in your brain and your mind keeps running the same program. And that program is, no, you are your body, no, you are a person, no, you are in time, no, there is a real past, no, you really have to worry, no, you really have to try hard. It keeps running the same program, right? And so in order for you to get free and experience the contentment and the happiness and the well-being that's available by being what you actually are as awareness, right? You have to deal with the program. You have to learn to pay attention to, and see the program when the program's running and know that it's a program. Unless you see it when it's running and know that it's a program, right? Then you're in the program and you're being what the program says you are. It's as simple as that. Or complicated as that, depending on how you want to look at it, right? But it is possible to do. And meditation is a way to do it and accelerate the process, right? because every time you meditate and you come to stillness and you sit quiet and you focus your attention, it gives you more access to being. It gives you more access to the awareness. And so one of the ways that people have talked about meditation is you can use it to become familiar and at home with yourself, to become familiar and at home with yourself. So that when you're meditating, you can have the experience. It's a lot easier to access it. You can have the experience, and when you're having the experience, you want to take note, okay, this is what it's like to be relaxed and alert and aware and see things as they are, and stop believing the thought process, you see. Because one of the reasons it's that people who say that it's about mind control, that I'm controlling my thoughts is something that I'm trying to do. The awareness has no need to control your thoughts. That's a strategy the person came up with of controlling your thoughts. So that's number one. Number two, it's not going to happen. You're not going to control your thoughts. That's never going to happen. You're never going to stop thinking. And that's not a problem from the viewpoint of awareness, because awareness doesn't need to control anything. It doesn't need to control anything. It knows that awareness knows that it can see things and see them as they are and not be dependent on thinking. Therefore, it need not stop thinking. And interestingly enough, what happens, it's not that you're controlling thoughts, but what happens is the more aware you are, the more you are the awareness, and less dependent on trusting thinking to know what's going on, the more the thoughts start to die down. Because you're not feeding them. Thoughts live on your attention. Thoughts live on your attention. That's the energy that has thoughts live. Neural pathways, the neurons that wired together in your brain, right? Those neural pathways, right? They become significant. They become strong by your replaying them again and again and again, by giving them your attention and replaying them again and again and again. If you withdraw the attention from that and you're just paying attention as awareness, seeing things as they are, and as you do that, you're less interested in the misinterpretations that thoughts are providing you. The thoughts just start to die off because of disuse. And it does get quieter, but you're not controlling your mind. Do you understand? That's the person's approach. You're not controlling your mind. You're just allowing things to be as they are. And when you're experiencing awareness and experiencing that that's what you are, and you're allowing things to be as they are, things clear up on their own. That's the power of awareness. When you're aware of what's going on and you can simply see the truth of what's going on, things clear up on their own. An example of what I'm talking about, when you're aware that you're misinterpreting or you're believing your feelings and your thoughts as a way of knowing what's going on, when you're aware that you're doing that, right, in a relationship with somebody that you love, right, and they behave in a way that triggers a reaction and you start to have feelings, triggers a reaction and you start to have thoughts. Now those feelings and thoughts are a misinterpretation of what's actually happening, because they're interpreting what's happening based on what happened in the past, right? That's the database it's using, right? But what happened in the past is not what's happening now. And so you're misinterpreting what's happening. If you are awake and aware as awareness itself, you see the whole thing. And when you see the whole thing, you don't buy the thoughts and the feelings. You pay attention to what's really going on, and you see it clearly and know it clearly, and then you can respond to it in a way that's effective. Just because you are aware. Just because you're aware. If somebody wants to quit smoking, I say, all you have to do to quit smoking is be aware of what you're doing when you're smoking. You can't continue to do anything that's destructive and hurting yourself consciously. It gets too hard to do, right? Gets too hard to do. Goes back to that little thing that I always say when I say, the guy said to the dentist, when I tapped this tooth that hurts, what do you think? And the dentist said, don't tap it. So if you're aware that what you're doing isn't working, right? You don't have to, this is the beauty of awareness. If you're aware that what you're doing isn't working, you don't have to try and stop. You don't have to try and stop. All you have to do is keep doing it, but be aware that you're doing it. And it starts getting harder and harder to do it until it just dies out. I'm telling you, this works. All you have to do is notice when you're being an asshole. Really be aware that you're being an asshole. Don't stop being one, just notice you're being one, right? It'll stop by itself. It will. It'll stop by itself. So, any other questions? It's really comic. It's really a cosmic joke, right? Because if it's true that you already are who you are and you don't have to do anything to be what you already are, right? Then all that's going on is you're missing the show. You're missing the opportunity. It's not like you have to do anything. It's not like you have to accomplish anything. All you have to do is start seeing what's really going on, right? And allow yourself to relax and experience that you're already here as awareness, and everything will start to clear up by itself. It's really that simple. But of course, like I said, you have this very bad habit of listening to the voice in your head. And it will try and talk you out of this every way it can. It'll have you, it'll present you with negative emotions, it'll present you with problems with your body, anything to keep you in the identity as a person. But if you persist and you keep going back to being the truth of yourself as awareness, right, you'll win. Because the mind doesn't have its own consciousness. The mind can only use what the energy you give it against you. Do you understand? The mind can only use the energy you give it against you. If you buy into the voice in your head, it will then torture you. And you cause the torturing because you're continuing to be related to the voice as if it is true, as if it is real. But it depends on you. One teacher said it this way: when the wind blows, it blows in space. It needs to be in space for it to happen, right? So the wind is dependent on space for it to be there and blow, right? It's dependent on space. But space is not dependent on the wind. The mind is dependent on the awareness to exist. But awareness is not dependent on the mind to exist. Awareness is real. The mind is a conditioned, made up, brain process, thought process program. It's just like a computer program is not conscious. It just does what it was programmed to do. That's what your brain's doing. It's just doing what it was programmed to do. It's not conscious. So if you really want to get what's available, you really have to stay tuned into this channel. You do, because you're going to go back into, you're going to go back to crazy town after this meeting. It's inevitable, right? You're going to go back, you're going to forget the truth, and you're going to go back into craziness. And so you really have to stay involved and participate actively and engage yourself with this possibility again and again and again for it to finally be realized consistently. Have a good day.